Hello class, welcome to Algebra Concepts Lesson 4.1, which is all about graphing linear functions. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to graph linear functions by using tables and intercepts. So let's first talk about graphing by making a table. So we're going to practice graphing at negative 2x minus 3 equals y by making a table. So this is something that you've done for the past couple of years, so hopefully, it won't feel too difficult to do, and it'll just feel more like a refresher than it will feel like learning something new. So the way we set up a table is we say x, y, and then we write our answer as an ordered pair. Then you can see that I've added a column here where, you plug things in. Okay, so if I start with x equals negative 4, I'd say negative 2 times negative 4. That is positive 8. Positive 8 minus 3 is 5. So my answer is going to be negative 4, 5. And then I do that same process. I say negative 2. So I have negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. Minus 3 is a positive 1. My ordered pair is a negative 2, 1. So you can see I've plugged in, got 5 different points there. So that's how you do the table portion. And then all you're going to do is simply plot those points. So negative 4, 5 means I go left 4, and then I go up 5. So here's my first point. Negative 2 means I go left 2. 1 means I go up 1. 0 means I don't go left or right. And then negative 3 means I go down 3. And then I have 1, negative 5 means that I go right here. And then 3, 1, 2, 3, negative 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the last step, which sometimes you guys forget, is connecting those dots. So then you connect those dots and put arrows on the end, meaning that it'll keep going in either direction. Okay, so step 1, make a table. Step 2, plot the points. Step 3, connect the dots. If you have questions about that, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. Now let's talk about making a table for an equation that maybe has a fraction. Oftentimes students will ask, how do I know what numbers to plug in? So when you don't have a fraction, it really doesn't matter what numbers you plug in. I like to plug in some easier numbers. So usually I like to plug in 0, 1, negative 1. And then I usually like my 2s, so 2 and negative 2. And those are my 5 points. But when you have a fraction, what you want to do is you want to pick numbers that are multiples of the bottom number. Okay, so I want to pick multiples of 4. So that's why I have 4 and negative 4. And then 4 times 2 is 8 and negative 8. When you pick the multiples of the bottom number of the fraction, it's going to get rid of a fraction. It's going to get rid of the fraction answer. Okay, so let's try that. 1/4 times negative 8 plus 3. 1/4 times negative 8 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So my answer is negative 8, 1. So if I go negative 8, 1. Then I have 1/4 times negative 4. 1/4 times negative 4 is negative 1. Plus 3 would be 2. So I have negative 4, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. If I plug in 0, 1/4 times 0 is 0. Plus 3 is 3. So 0, 3. 1/4 times 4 is 1. Plus 3 is 4. So you can see I now have 4, 4. So 4, 4. And then 1/4 times 8 is 2, plus 3 is 5. Okay, so now I have 8, 5. So 8, 5, and then I connect my dots. Okay, so when you are graphing something with a fraction, making a table, plug in numbers that are multiples of the bottom number. If you have questions about that, please be sure to ask for some help. Now let's practice graphing when you just have y equals a number. So we're used to having things with an x in it. So right now, if we just have graph y equals 5, that's the same as saying y equals, there aren't any x's, so we'd say 0x plus 5. Okay, so then if we were to make a table and graph it, I would have I'd have 0x plus 5. If I plug in a -2, 0 times -2 is 0, plus 5 is 5. And then I'd have -1. 0 times -1 is 0, plus 5 is 5. And I keep going, and you can see, oops, I'm hitting the wrong buttons. You can see that, there we go. You can see that no matter what number I plug in, 0 times anything is 0, and 0 plus 5 is always going to be 5. So if I plot this graph, -2, and then 5, -1, 5, 0, 5, 1, 5, and 2, 5, you can see it makes this horizontal line. Okay, so whenever you have y equals a number, you get a horizontal line. And on the flip side, if you have x equals a number, you're always going to get a vertical line. So then you go to where x equals -2. So x is -2 here, you do a vertical line. So x equals a number is going to be vertical line. All right, so y equals horizontal line, x equals is vertical line. If you have questions about that, please be sure to ask for some help. But memorizing those two facts is really going to save you a lot of time and effort, and then also help you score points on tests. All right, now we're going to move on to graphing by intercept. So let's quickly review what an intercept is. An intercept is where it crosses the x or the y axis. So for an x-intercept, let's say I have this graph right here. My x-intercept would be at this point right here. It's where it crosses the x-axis. So that would be 2, 0. So it's a number, comma, 0. And then the y-intercept is always, in this case, it would be 0, 4, right? I didn't go left or right. I just went up. So the thing that you need to remember is that when you have an x-intercept, your y equals 0. And when you have a y-intercept, your x equals 0. And that will make sense in just a minute. So if we're trying to graph by using the x and y intercepts, so we said x-intercept is when y equals 0. So we would take this graph, we'd say -x plus 2y equals 8. We'd say -x plus 2, 0 equals 8. 2 times 0 is just 0, so I have -x equals 8. And then in order to get rid of this negative, I would divide both sides by a -1. I would have x equals -8. And that means that my ordered pair is -8, 0. So I'd go over to -8, 0, and I'd plot a point. I'm going to change colors to help you keep track of the y-intercept. So when it's a y-intercept, remember your x equals 0. So we have negative x plus 2y equals 8. So we have negative 0, or just 0, plus 2y equals 8. 0 plus 2y is just 2y equals 8. And then divide both sides by 2, you get y equals 4. So your ordered pair, x was 0, y was 4. So then, if I go, actually, let me switch back to blue. 0, 4 would be an ordered pair right there. And then all I'm going to do is connect those two dots. And that is how you graph using intercepts. Okay. So hopefully that process isn't too bad. You just have to remember kind of like this important information that when you're finding your x-intercept, that means your y equals 0. When you're finding your y-intercept, that means x equals 0. All right, let's do a one-word problem and talk about kind of like what intercepts mean from a word problem. You guys kind of did this already in the last chapter, so hopefully it won't seem too bad. Okay, so we have Angelina bought a 15-pound bag of food for her dog. The bag contains about 60 cups of food, and she feeds her dog 2.5, or 5/2, cups of food per day. The function y plus 5/2 x equals 60 represents the amount of food left in the bag y after x days. Graph the amount of dog food left in the bag as a function of time. Okay, so right now we've already talked about graphing, so I'm not actually going to draw out a graph for you, but I'm going to help you find the intercepts and describe what they mean. Okay, so again, if we're trying to find an x-intercept, that means that we set y equal to 0. So I'd have 0 plus 5/2 x equals 60. So 0 plus anything is just itself, right? So I have 5/2 x equals 60. And if I were to solve that, I could multiply this 2 over to the other side. So I'd have 5x equals 120. And then divide both sides by 5. 120 divided by 5 would be 24. Okay. So my x-intercept would be 24, 0. And x represents days, right? And y represents the amount of food left. So the x-intercept would mean the food runs out after 24 days. Or you could say there's enough food for 24 days, something like that. Okay, and then on a graph, you would plot a point at 24, 0. Now let's try solving for the y-intercept. So remember, for the y-intercept, our x equals 0. So now I have y plus 5/2 times 0 equals 60. Anything times 0 is just 0, and anything plus 0 is just itself. So I would get y equals 60. So my ordered pair would be 0, 60. X represents the days. Y represents the amount of food left. So this means that the bag started with 60 cups of food. Okay, and then you would plot a point at 0, 60 and connect to those 2 points. That's how you would graph it. But this is me showing you how to interpret what each of the intercepts means. Okay, if you have questions about that or anything else from this video, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. I hope you have a great day.